Today I'm going to be covering the third installment of the Nibiru Elenin from the ancient text. I'll be reading from a number of different texts, and I'll also be covering some Nostradadamus prophecies as well as some prophecies from a lady named Mother Shipton. She actually wrote a poem which is tied to this whole blue star, red star, Kachina prophecy. So I do appreciate you tuning in. It's Wednesday evening. This is September 14, 2011, and Jason is saying my sound is muffled. That is not good because we had that problem once before. I'm going to call in real quick again. So hold on, everybody. I'm going to reconnect. I'll call right back. Okay, I appreciate it. I hope this is better. I hope that you got me clear enough that I can bring this information to you without any echoes or any kind of distractions, because I've got quite a lot of information I want to cover this evening. Do give me a shout out in the chat room to tell me if the sound quality is better, and I'll check because I know you guys are about 2 minutes behind. But I want to make mention real quick before I go into this information as far as Elenin and the Niburu and the Sky Monster and information from the Kolbrin Bible. There was an article that was just recently put out called Lawless America, 20 Examples of Desperate People Doing Desperate Things. This article is quite frightening and quite indicative of the signs of the times. For those that are new to the show and are not well versed in the New World Order and the intricate workings of it, and you're not familiar with how the elites, the Bilderberger elites, have been plotting to centralize power over centuries, centralizing power and wealth by intermarrying through their own bloodlines and families. They've succeeded in creating a fraternity, a brotherhood, a familyhood of these schizoid beings that think and consider that they have the divine right to rule. Well, they put forth many documents and many so-called special projects, special reports on how to implement this global new world order and how to bring this world order together and unify it as a global matrix as far as a global economy where we're all tied together so that they could crash it all in an instant as well, especially with all this high-speed trading and the volatility that has entered the market, because it's swinging 300-400 points one way and 300-400 points the other way, and it's a seesaw, and so people are afraid. And this kind of volatility is being injected into the markets because of the fear that banks do not have money and do not have collateral enough to cover their debts, or even all the deposits that people have invested into their system, have entrusted into their care. And so the people of the world are starting to wake up to the fact that the banks are broke and that they're hiding all this toxic assets, and that at some point the system is going to fail. And we have problems here in America where we're dealing with a declared $14 trillion debt, but we know it's much greater than that. But over there in Europe, the problem with the Eurozone and with the European Union is that all of those countries are individual. They're not necessarily meshed together in like a United States, like the United States of America, where we've been together a country of, even though we've been individual states, we've been a federal union for a long time working together to preserve that union. And over there in Europe, they're still disjointed and still can't decide whether, the rich countries of the European Union, the French and the Germans, right now, they're trying to decide whether they're going to shore up the Greeks and the Italians and the French and the Spanish and the Portuguese and all their debt. And their own people are very upset because they don't want to pay for all that debt of all these other countries. And so that union is going to come apart. And when it does, it will be one of the catalysts for bringing this system, this global system of money and economics to a standstill. It's going to, the whole house of cards is going to come down at some point. They've been planning it that way for a long time. So this particular article is giving us a sign of what's going to happen all over the world, because these austerity measures that are being implemented to slash the debt, even though all this money that all of a sudden just disappeared, nobody ever got in trouble for it, nobody ever got locked up or put in jail for it. So the problem still exists. Great, I'm glad that you guys can hear me well. I'm really glad for that. I got some great information for you. But I just wanted to make mention of this, because what is happening over there in Europe with there being lawlessness in the streets, riots there in the main downtown corridors and sectors of London and all these other countries, that's coming home, people. That is coming home to roost. That's coming to America. And this article is indicative of that. The number one indicator here they're saying is that gold is being targeted by thieves. So, jewelry makers, even gold chains are being snatched off people's necks, especially young high school people. They're being robbed just for the gold that they're wearing. People are digging up graves to get gold teeth, and it's getting bad. And also another sign of the times is that all the metals are being salvaged. People are actually stealing air conditioners and stealing the copper wiring of electrical units and electrical systems, all while it's live and carrying electricity. It's crazy, the risk that people are taking. There was also another thing that was highlighted in here where people are getting arrested just to go to jail so that they can get their problems with that, their health issues dealt with, just so that they can get 3 square meals. I mean, this is the situation that we're dealing with. The desperation that is starting to compound is getting insane. Another thing that we're seeing happen is that, especially here in America, we have over 40% of the population that is medicated for certain issues, whether it's depression or pain or whatever the issues. They dispense drugs for everything out here. I mean, if you have a toe ache, they'll put you on something. It's ridiculous. You have a mild cough, they'll put you on a prescription that you're supposed to take the rest of your life. That's the way that they bleed us dry and support the pharmaceutical industries. They create disease in this country and keep us sick, so that we, are then have to depend on these prescriptions. And so that's some of the things that's happening. I read an article just recently about a gentleman that was taking care of his girlfriend's 7-year-old son that happened to have cerebral palsy. And from everything that I've read, this young kid was just mild-mannered, mild-natured, and even though he had special needs, he was really a wonderful kid. And this guy, this boyfriend, he decided to chop the boy's head off with an axe and to throw the child's head on the side of the road. And people are losing it. There was another article, another point from the same article, talking about how this one person went and doused his family members with kerosene and gasoline and lit 13 of his family members on fire. Another person that murdered their parents and threw a party over the weekend. People that are trying to sell their babies in front of the Taco Bells. And it is getting desperate out there. Really, really crazy. So just be aware, people. Be extra vigilant. Be on your toes. Don't just be zombified, in your daily routines, walking through life. There is danger lurking at every corner now, and so you have to be aware. You have to be vigilant. It's almost like you have to have a martial arts kind of mindset into where you're preparing for violence and looking for it at every turn of the way. Because there is insanity happening all over the place. And so, okay, well, I'm going to go into the Kolbrin. Some people can hear me great, others can't. I don't know what's going on. I did try to upgrade the system. I made sure all the settings were right. So if somebody out there has any advice on, what I might can do to make it better, please do send me some information. I'm all ears as far as that kind of stuff. All right. This particular information that I'm about to go into now talks about the time when these particular bodies that I wanted to go into and warn you about, these sky monsters, Nibiru and Elenin. And, we have all these alignments coming up. Over the next month and a half, we have all these alignments that are supposed to happen where we could see, celestial events, things happening in the heavens, signs in the sun and the moon and the stars. So be aware of that too, and you can check it out. Just pull up the JPL NASA timeline for Elenin, and know that according to this particular text, the Kolbrin Bible, that there could be something following Elenin. And if that is the case, if Planet X and Niburu is following Elenin, we're supposed to be crossing over the path of Elenin. I believe it's October 16th. And then we'll be, our planet will be entering into its debris field and crossing over before moving on into, a safer part of our orbit. But if something is right behind, if Planet X, Nibiru, whatever you want to call it, is right behind Elenin, then it could directly affect us. It could even impact us, or just affect us in such a way that it would create massive earthquakes, tidal events, upheavals. But what I'm about to read from, in fact, talks about the time when Nibiru returned into the skies, the destroyer coming into the skies of heaven, and it actually was part of the events that preceded the deluge. And so I'm going to read some of that, because a lot of people don't know that Nibiru had and Elenin, they had parts to play in earlier cataclysmic events that happened in the early history of our solar system. In fact, I talked about with Doug Elwell in a show that we did on the prior times, the early history of our universe, about how, in fact, Nibiru was responsible for splitting Tiamat and moving it over here to where the Earth is now, and that when this event happened so long ago and accelerated by the Enuma Elish, that this was the beginning of life here on this planet, because it was actually moved to a distance where it was perfect to then harbor life in mass multiplication. And so the Lord allowed and utilized Nibiru to even create this planet. And most people don't know that either about our ancient past. So check out that show. It's called The Prior Times with Doug Elwell. All right, now I'm going to start reading. Then, with the dawning, men saw an awesome sight. There, riding on a great black rolling cloud, came the destroyer, newly released from the confines of the sky vaults, and she raged about the heavens, for it was her day of judgment. The beast with her opened its mouth and belched forth fire and hot stones and a vile smoke. It covered the whole sky above, and meeting place of earth and heaven could no longer be seen. In the evening, the places of the stars were changed. They rolled across the sky to new stations, and then the floodwaters came. Does that not sound like a pole shift? I want to read that again, because this fits in with Isaiah, I believe, chapter 24, and also with the pole shift that Noah was witness to in the book of Enoch. And so, listen again to this sentence. In the evening, the places of the stars were changed. They rolled across the sky to new stations. Then the floodwaters came. I want to make mention real quick, and then I'll continue with the story, that the Kolbrin text also talk about, the Sumerian text talk about how when Nibiru came by, that it was the ice sheet on the continent of Antarctica that slipped off and into the ocean and actually created a tsunami, and that the tsunami was part of what flooded and put many lands underwater. And then after that, there was the 40 days of rain and hail and storms that then flooded everything else. So, but we'll get to that. The floodgates of heaven were opened, and the foundations of earth were broken apart. The surrounding waters poured over the land and broke upon the mountains. The storehouses of the winds burst their bolts asunder. So storms and whirlwinds were loosed to hurl themselves upon the earth. In the seething waters and howling gales, all buildings were destroyed. Trees were uprooted and mountains cast down. There was a time of great heat, and then came a time of bitter cold. The waves Over the waters did not rise and fall, but ceased and swirled, and there was an awful sound above. The pillars of heaven were broken and fell down to earth. The sky vault was rent and broken. The whole of creation was in chaos. The stars in the heavens were loosened from their places, so they dashed about in confusion. There was a revolt on high. A new ruler appeared there and swept across the sky in majesty. Those who had not labored at the building of the great ship, and those who had mocked the builders, came quickly to the place where it was lying. They climbed upon the ship and beat upon it with their hands. They raged and pleaded, but could not enter inside, nor could they break the wood. As the great ship was borne up by the waters, it rolled and they were swept off, for there was no foothold for them. The ship was lifted by the mighty surge of waters and hurled among the debris, but it was not dashed upon the place where it was built. It was not dashed upon the mountainside because of the place it was built. All the people not saved within the ship were swallowed up in the midst of the raging confusion, and their wickedness and corruption was purged away from the face of the earth. The swelling waters swept up to the mountaintop and filled the valleys. They did not rise like waters poured into a bowl, but came in great surging torrents. Sounds like a tsunami, doesn't it? But when the tumult quieted and the waters became still, they stood no more than 3 cubits above the earth. The destroyer passed away into the fastness of heaven, and the great flood remained 7 days, diminishing day by day as the waters drained away to their places. And then the waters spread out calmly, and the great ship drifted amid a brown scum and debris of all kinds. After many days, the great ship came to rest upon Cardo in the mountains of Ashtar against Minshim in the valley in the land of God. The next account I'm going to read from, I'm going to check the chat room real quick, and I do apologize again for the sound quality. The next account that I'm going to read for has to do with the Exodus. And another thing that most people don't realize is that and Jeff, just so you know, I do care, brother, but I don't know what to do to resolve the issue. I've just upgraded the mic. I don't know. Maybe I got to upgrade the computer. I don't know, but and like I said, if anybody out there has any technical, expertise on sound and all that, please do send me information. I would appreciate it. Again, continuing with the information. Again, most people don't realize that the Exodus too, that when the Israelites, the Hebrews were led out of Egypt, that Niburu also had part to play in that. And remember, in one of the plagues was that the water was turned blood red, and also in Revelations that one of the signs of the end of days is that the waters will also turn blood red. So so that will be mentioned also in this story. And also, just so you know, those of you that are typing a lot in the chat room, I do hope that you keep it kindly and, honor each other, because when I'm reading, I cannot monitor all that's going on in there. This is basically a one-man show, so I can't do all the things that, are really necessary to make this, I guess, as optimal as possible. And I apologize for that too, but, I don't have help. So, on the great night of the destroyer's wrath, when its terror was at its height, there was a hail of rocks, and the earth heaved as pain rent her bowels. Gates, columns, and walls were consumed by fire, and the statues of gods were overthrown and broken. People fled outside their dwellings in fear and were slain by the hail. Those who took shelter from the hail were swallowed when the earth split open. The habitations of men collapsed upon those inside, and there was panic on every hand. For the slaves who lived in the huts in the reedlands, at the place of pits were spared. The land burnt like tinder. A man watched upon his rooftops, and the heavens hurled wrath upon him, and he died. The land writhed under the wrath of the destroyer and groaned with the agony of Egypt. It shook itself, and the temples and places of the nobles were thrown down from their foundations. The highborn ones perished in the midst of the ruins, and all the strength of the land was stricken. Even the great one, the firstborn of the pharaohs, died. With the highborn in the midst of terror and falling stones. The children of princes were cast out into the streets, and those who were not cast out died within their abodes. There were 9 days of darkness and upheaval, while a tempest raged such as never had been known before. When it passed away, brother buried brother throughout the land. Men rose up against those in authority and fled from the cities to dwell in tents and in the outlands. The next part is from the Great Scroll. This is chapter 3 of the Great Scroll, and this is the second part of the Kolbrin Bible. The Kolbrin is split up into 2 parts. One is written by the Egyptian priests, and the other is written by the Celtic Druidic priesthood. And it actually goes, way back to even prior to Egypt, to even the destruction of the First World Age. And so these stories are very, very ancient. And that's why I do recommend people read the Kolbrin for themselves if they have not. But be wary, that because it is written from a pagan perspective, that they do deny Christ as the Son of God. But it does give you an interesting perspective on the accounting of creation and what happened in the prior times. Men forget the days of the destroyer. Only the wise know where it went and that it will return in its appointed hour. It raged across the heavens in the days of wrath, and this was its likeness. It was as a burning cloud of smoke enwrapped in a ruddy glow, not distinguishable in joint or limb. Its mouth was an abyss from which came flames, smoke, and hot cinders. When ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars in the heavens. Their ways change. There is movement and restlessness. There are no longer constant, and a great light appears redly in the skies. When blood drops upon the earth, the destroyer will appear, and mountains will open and belch forth fire and ashes. I want to read this line again because this has to do with the red dust. The red dust will be one of the signs that Niburu, the destroyer, is near, because it will turn the waters blood red. And also the volcanic activity, earthquakes, and volcanoes, and seismic upheavals will begin to occur more frequently and more intensely as well, which is one of the things we're experiencing right now as well. When blood drops upon the earth, the destroyer will appear, and mountains will open up and belch forth fire and ashes. Trees will be destroyed, and all living things engulfed. Waters will be swallowed up by the land, and seas will boil. The heavens will burn brightly and redly. There will be a copper hue over the face of the land. Followed by a day of darkness, a new moon will appear and break up and fall. The people will scatter in madness. They will hear the trumpet and battle cry of the destroyer, and will seek refuge in the den of the earth. Does that not follow with Revelation 6, where the rich, they go into the dens of the earth and pray that the rocks fall on them to hide them from the fury of the Lamb? Terror will eat away their hearts, and their courage will flow from them like water from a broken pitcher. They will be eaten up in the flames of wrath and consumed by the breath of the destroyer. Thus, in the days of heavenly wrath which have gone, and thus it will be in the days of doom when it comes again. The times of its coming and going are known unto the wise. These are the signs and times which shall precede the destroyer's return. Pay attention here. 110 generations shall pass into the west, and nations will rise and fall. Men will fly in the air as birds, and swim in the seas as fishes. Men will talk peace one with another. Hypocrisy and deceit shall have their day. Women will be as men, and men as women. Passion will be a plaything of a man. A nation of soothsayers shall rise and fall, and their tongue shall be the speech learned. A nation of lawgivers shall rule the earth and pass away into nothingness. One worship will pass into the four quarters of the earth, talking peace and bringing war. The nation of the seas will be greater than any other, but will be as an apple, rotten at the core, and will not endure. A nation of traders will destroy men with wonders, and it shall have its day. Then shall the high strive with the low, the north with the south, the east with the west, and the light with the darkness. Men shall be divided by their races, and the children will be born as strangers among them. Brothers shall strive with brother, and husband with wife. Fathers will no longer instruct their sons, and their sons will be wayward. Women will become the common property of men, and will no longer be held in regard and respect. Then men will be ill at ease in their hearts, and they will seek they know not what, and uncertainty and doubt will trouble them. They will possess great riches, but be poor in spirit. Then will the heavens tremble, and the earth move. Men will quake in fear, and while terror walks with them, the heralds of doom will appear. They will come softly as thieves to the tombs. Men will not know them for what they are. Men will be deceived. The hour of the destroyer is at hand. In those days, men will have the great book before them. Wisdom will be revealed. The few will be gathered for the stand. It is the hour of trial. The dauntless ones will survive. The stout-hearted will not go down to destruction. Great God of all ages, alike to all who sets the trials of man, be merciful to our children in the days of doom. Man must suffer to be great, but hasten not his progress unduly. In the great winnowing, be not too harsh on the lesser ones among men. Even the son of a thief has become your scribe. This is chapter 4 from the same scroll, the great scroll. This is part 2 of the return of the destroyer. I'm going to take a glance in at the chat room. I'm reading from the book of Kolbrin. It's a Kolbrin. It's the Kolbrin Bible. I'm reading the different accounts that about Niburu returning in our heavens and in our skies, and the way that it affected all of us, or this planet, in past civilizations and ancient peoples, early in our history. And so, yes, the Kolbrin Bible. This is an ancient historical account. And I'll come back to the chat room every now and then. So if you got any questions, just place them there and give me a little time. And I'll, in between readings, I'll check it out. I appreciate your patience and everybody's good behaviors and honoring each other and sharing with each other the way that you are. I appreciate that greatly. All right, this is important as well. O sentinels of the universe who watch for the destroyer, how long will your coming vigil last? O mortal men who wait without understanding, where will you hide yourselves in the dread days of doom, when the heavens shall be torn apart and the skies rent in twain, in the days when children would turn gray-headed? This is the thing which will be seen. This is the terror your eyes will behold. This is the form of destruction that will rush on you. There will be a great body of fire, the glowing head with many mouths and eyes ever changing. Terrible teeth will be seen in formless mouths, and a fearful dark belly will glow redly from fires inside. Even the most stout-hearted man will tremble, and his bowels be loosened, for this is not a thing understandable to men. It will be a vast, sky-spanning form, enwrapping earth, burning with many hues within wide open mouths. These will descend to sweep across the face of the land, engulfing all in the yawning jaws. The greatest warriors will charge against it in vain. The fangs will fall out, and lo, they are terror-inspiring things, a cold, hardened water. Great boulders will be hurled down upon men, crushing them into red powder. As the great salt waters rise up in its train, and roaring torrents pour towards the land, even the hero among mortal men will be overcome with madness. As moths fly swiftly to their doom in the burning flame, so will these men rush to their own destruction. The flames going before will devour all the works of men. The waters following will sweep away whatever remains. The dew of death will fall softly as the carpet over the cleared land. Men will cry out in their madness, "Oh, whatever being there is, save us from this land. Tall form of terror, save us from the gray dew of death." All right, I want to cover, because I know I'm going to quickly run out of time, so I wanted to move into some of these other prophecies that are also associated with some other historical accounts that you can look up. This is a poem from Mother Shipton, and I believe she's early 1800s, and she actually wrote a poem about this particular event too. So I'm going to read this kind of quick so I can try to get into the Nostradadamus prophecies before the end of the show. It says this: "For storms will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds will die and new be born. A fiery dragon will cross the sky, 6 times before the earth shall die. Mankind will tremble and frightened be, for the 6 heralds in this prophecy. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch this awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain and shore. And flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow men. He bares his teeth and fights and kills, and secrets food in secret hill. And ugly in his fear he lies to kill marauders, thieves, and spies. Man flees in terror from the floods, and kills and rapes and lies in blood. And spilling blood by mankind's hand will stain and bitter many lands. And when the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on, to apply himself too late, for mankind has earned deserved fate. His masked smile, his false grandeur, will serve the gods their anger stir, and they will send the dragon back, to light the sky his tail will crack upon the earth and rend the earth, and man shall flee king, lord, and serf. But slowly they are routed out, to seek diminishing water spout, and men will die of thirst before the oceans rise to mount to the shore. And lands will crack and rend anew, because you think it strange, yet it will come true. And in some far-off distant land, some men of such a tiny band will have to leave their solid mount and span the earth, those few to count. Who survives is unreadable, and then begin the human race again, but not on the land already there, but on ocean beds stark, dry, and bare. Not every soul on earth will die as the dragon's tail goes sweeping by. Not every land on earth will sink, But these will wallow in stench and stink, of rotting bodies of beast and man, of vegetation crisped on land. But the land that rises from the sea will be dry and clean and soft and free, of mankind's dirt, and thereof be the source of man's new dynasty. And those that live will ever fear the dragon's tail for many a year. The time erases memory, you think it strange, but it will be. And before the race is built anew, a silver serpent comes to view, and spews out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth now grown. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? A silver serpent comes to view and spews out men of like unknown to mingle with the earth now grown, cold from its heat, and these men can enlighten the minds of future man, to intermingle and show them how to live and love and thus endow the children with the second sight, a natural thing, so that they might grow grateful, humble, and when they do, the golden age will start anew. The dragon's tail is but a sign for mankind's fall and man's decline. And before this prophecy is done, I shall be burned at the stake at one. My body singed and my soul set free. You think I uttered blasphemy? You're wrong. These things have come to me. This prophecy will come to be. That's a Mother Shipton on the great dragon, which in the enumeration, several of the old tales that discuss the battle that happened between Nibiru and Tiamat in the early days of the solar system, that they called Nibiru the dragon. All right, I should have time to get through this. All right, these prophecies that I'm going to be reading now are connected to Nostradamus, and there's just a few quatrains that I'm going to read, and then I'm going to try to end the show with one final account from the Sumerian text. Excuse me while I sip some water. Okay. This is quatrain I-69. The great mountain round us 7 stadia, afterwards peace, war, famine, flood. It will roll far away, sinking great countries, even antiquities and great foundations. All of these things that I'm bringing forth to you are also connected to the Bible codes, because for those that study the Bible codes, there's a lot of asteroids and asteroid impact, hailstorms, floods, earthquakes, upheavals that are associated to the return of, some cosmic bodies, and that this all has part to play in the future, in the near future even, of the soon-coming history of this planet. And so these are things that we have to be aware of. The Lord warns us about these things. Quatrain 2, passage 43. During the bearded star's appearance, the 3 great princes will be made enemies. Hit from the sky, peace, earth trembling, paw, Tiber overflowing, serpent on the brink placed. Now, I'm no expert at Nostradamus, so I'm not even going to try to decipher all these things. I just thought it would be interesting for you to hear that, that there are prophecies on that side of it too, because we know he's part of that whole Freemasonic, Illuminati, New World Order, elitist, Adam Weishaupt, those elitist people. So the arrow from heaven will make its journey, dead while speaking a great execution. The stone in the tree, the pawn nation brought down, the rumor of a human monster, purge and expiation. Quatrain 262. Mabus will soon die, and there will happen a dreadful destruction of people and animals. Suddenly vengeance will appear, 100 hands thirst and hunger when the comet passes. This also kind of reminds me of the passage in Thessalonians that talks about how they will, they will be declaring peace and then comes sudden destruction. What could be greater sudden destruction than a deep impact type of an event, extinction level event, which is prophesied in the Word? These things are coming. It's not necessarily, in my opinion, that the last bowels of wrath, they are not poured out on the church. If they're poured out on those not written into the book of life and those that have no part in salvation. So be wary of that as well. Okay. I think I'm going to have to skip to, I want to read this account from Sumer. I think I can get to it in just a few minutes, and then I'll end this with a final prayer. This reading from here is called the Lost Book of Enki, E-N-K-I. And this also is a Sumerian cuneiform text that was translated by Zechariah Sitchin that is thousands of years old. And it says this about one of Nibiru's passing. Upon the earth the warmth was rising, vegetation flourished, wild creatures overran the land. The rains were heavier, rivers were gushing, abodes repairing needed. Upon the earth the heat was increasing. The snow-white parts to water were melting. The bars of the seas the oceans were not containing. From the depths of the earth volcanoes were fire and brimstone belching. The grounds were trembling each time the earth was shaking. In the lower world, the snow-white hued place, the earth was grumbling. At the tip of the Abzu, Enki, a place for observing, established. To his son Nergal and his spouse Ereshkigal command thereof he entrusted. A thing unknown and untoward thing thereon is bringing. Nergal to his father Enki said, in Niburu, the place of the bond heaven and earth, Enlil, the heavenly circus, was watching. By the image of the tablets of destiny, celestial motions he was comparing. There is turmoil in the heavens, Enlil to his brother Enki said. From the planet Lamu, the place, that's Mars for those that don't know, Lamu. From the planet Lamu, the place of the way station, Marduk to Enki, his father, was complaining. Strong winds are disturbing, annoying dust storms they are raising. He's reporting from Mars. Remember, the Anunnaki, they have a way station. They're on Mars. They even have one on the moon as well. They set it up there a long time ago. Strong winds are destroying. So Marduk to his father Enki was beaming. In the hammered bracelet, which is the asteroid belt, turmoils are occurring. Upon the earth, brimstones from the skies were falling. Pitiless demons havoc causing. Violently the earth they approached. Into flaming fires in the skies they were bursting. In a clear day, darkness they were causing. With storms and evil winds they raged around. Like stony missiles, the earth they were attacking. Kingu, Earth's moon, and Lamu, too, by these havocs were afflicted. The faces of all three, just so you know, Kingu is the moon. The faces of all three with countless stars were covered. Enlil to Enki to Anu the king, urgent words were beaming. Nibiru's savants they alerted. The earth and the moon and Lamu, a calamity unknown, are facing. In the heavens, Niburu was approaching. The sun's abode it was nearing. By the seven in a row arraigned was Niburu distracted. The path through the hammered bracelet it was missing. From the bracelet bits and pieces it had been displacing. The rest of the celestial bar, Lahamu, that's Venus, with Niburu, that's Mercury, near the sun were crouching. In the heaven, Lahamu, that's Venus again, her glorious dwelling place was abandoning. To quell her, Niburu, from the celestial deep, a monstrous demon made appear. A monster once to Tiamat's host belonging, by the celestial battle fashioned, from horizon to the midst of heaven, like a flaming dragon it was stretched. 1 league was its head, 50 leagues in length it was, awesome its tail. By day the skies of earth had darkened, by night upon the face of the moon a spell of darkness it cast. To her brothers the celestials Lahamu for help was calling. Who will the dragon obstruct? Who will stop and kill it, she was asking. Only valiant Kingu, once Tiamat's protector, stepped forward to respond. To intercept the dragon in its path, Kingu was making haste. Fierce was the encounter. A tempest of clouds upon Kingu was raised. By its foundation was Kingu shaken. From the impact did the moon quake and shake. And then the heavenly havoc was calmed. Niburu, to its distant abode of the deep, was returning. Lahamu, in its dwelling place, did not abandon. The stony missiles upon the earth and Lamu ceased their reigning. All right. I did have a little bit more to read to you. It's on the Kolbrin, but I'm not going to be able to get to it. Okay, and again, I want to thank everybody, and for those that have some kind of technical expertise that can tell me on how to increase sound. Today I'm going to be covering the third installment of the Niburu Elenin from the ancient text. I'll be reading from a number of different texts, and I'll also be covering some Nostradadamus prophecies as well as some prophecies from a lady named Mother Shipton. She actually wrote a poem which is tied to this whole blue star, red star, Kachina prophecy. So I do appreciate you tuning in. It's Wednesday evening. This is September 14, 2011, and Jason is saying my sound is muffled. That is not good because we had that problem once before. I'm going to call in real quick again. So hold on, everybody. I'm going to reconnect. I'll call right back. Okay, I appreciate it. I hope this is better. I hope that you got me clear enough that I can bring this information to you without any echoes or any kind of distractions, because I've got quite a lot of information I want to cover this evening. Do give me a shout out in the chat room to tell me if the sound quality is better, and I'll check because I know you guys are about 2 minutes behind. But I want to make mention real quick before I go into this information as far as Elenin and Niburu and the Sky Monster and information from the Kolbrin Bible. There was an article that was just recently put out called Lawless America, 20 Examples of Desperate People Doing Desperate Things. This article is quite frightening and quite indicative of the signs of the times. For those that are not are new to the show and are not well versed in the New World Order and the intricate workings of it, and you're not familiar with how the elites, the Bilderberger elites, have been plotting to centralize power over centuries, centralizing power and wealth by intermarrying through their own bloodlines and families. They've succeeded in creating a fraternity, a brotherhood, a familyhood of these schizoid beings that think and consider that they have the divine right to rule. Well, they put forth many documents and many so-called special projects, special reports on how to implement this global New World Order and how to bring this world order together and unify it as a global matrix as far as a global economy where we're all tied together so that they could crash it all in an instant as well, especially with all this high-speed trading and the volatility that has entered the market because it's swinging 300-400 points one way and 300-400 points the other way, and it's a seesaw, and so people are afraid. And this kind of volatility is being injected into the markets because of the fear that banks do not have money and do not have collateral enough to cover their debts, or even all the deposits that people have invested into their system, have entrusted into their care. And so the people of the world are starting to wake up to the fact that the banks are broke and that they're hiding all this toxic assets, and that at some point the system is going to fail. And we have problems here in America where we're dealing with a declared $14 trillion debt, but we know it's much greater than that. But over there in Europe, the problem with the Eurozone and with the European Union is that all of those countries are individual. They're not necessarily meshed together in like a United States, like the United States of America, where we've been together a country of, even though we've been individual states, we've been a federal union for a long time working together to preserve that union. And over there in Europe, they're still disjointed and still can't decide whether, the rich countries of the European Union, the French and the Germans, right now, they're trying to decide whether they're going to shore up the Greeks and the Italians and the French and the Spanish and the Portuguese and all their debt. And their own people are very upset because they don't want to pay for all that debt of all these other countries. And so that union is going to come apart. And when it does, it will be one of the catalysts for bringing this system, this global system of money and economics to a standstill. It's going to, the whole house of cards is going to come down at some point. They've been planning that way for a long time. So this particular article is giving us a sign of what's going to happen all over the world, because these austerity measures that are being implemented to slash the debt, even though all this money that all of a sudden just disappeared, nobody ever got in trouble for it, nobody ever got locked up or put in jail for it. So the problem still exists. Great, I'm glad that you guys can hear me well. I'm really glad for that. I got some great information for you. But I just wanted to make mention of this because what is happening over there in Europe with there being lawlessness in the streets, riots there in the main downtown corridors and sectors of London and all these other countries, that's coming home, people. That is coming home to roost. That's coming to America. And this article is indicative of that. The number one indicator here they're saying is that gold is being targeted by thieves. So, jewelry makers, even gold chains are being snatched off people's necks, especially young high school people. They're being robbed just for the gold that they're wearing. People are digging up graves to get gold, gold teeth, and it's getting bad. And also another sign of the times is that all the metals are being salvaged. People are actually stealing air conditioners and stealing the copper wiring of electrical units and electrical systems, all while it's live and carrying electricity. It's crazy the risk that people are taking. There was also another thing that was highlighted in here where people are getting arrested just to go to jail so that they can get their problems looked at, their health issues dealt with, just so that they can get 3 square meals.